welcome. This is Todd from Figure Fiend. This episode right here is going to be 3 3/4 5-point figures in 1980s ninja style. So more or less the Kenner style. That's the style that I like to work from, the Kenner and Mattel. So my first thing is that there were lots of ninja movies in the 80s, but the two that stood out the most were Revenge of the Ninja and Enter the Ninja. So like many other kids of that time period, I was obsessed with ninjas. The ninja movie, the ninja weapons, all that stuff. So these movies were really powerful. They didn't get any merchandising behind them, although I do know that Shogi did sell a line of ninja figures that I've been looking for years. They were advertised in Kung Fu Magazine, Black Belt, the ninja magazines, all that stuff. So I will continue my search. I included some of the foreign posters, like this German one, because they're amazing. And what you see right here is an actual photo of me dressed like a ninja. I believe I'm 12. And this is a time that John and I, my friend from Monolith, we would scour the flea markets looking for weapons, and that's what we would bring back. That's all of our stuff right there, stuck in the trees. So my first attempt at doing the ninja, I had worked off a mummy body, which the mummy was the first 5-point figure that I sculpted. He'll be coming in a future video. So using that framework, I sort of softened a lot of the areas, made sure I had some base weapons to work with, made sure I had a head, and then started to do my detail pass after I got the weapons out. So I wanted to create an array of weapons that could facilitate as many ninjas as possible for both films. And then I did a detail pass, as you can see here, just adding a lot of the folds and wrinkles and getting the silhouettes correct, but also not making them too detailed or too modern or too realistic, because I still want them to look like they're made in the 80s. This is my notes of all the stuff I wasn't happy with, which is normal the case. I print something out after I've sculpted it, I do a series of notes, I go and make changes, I print it again. This is the third run. So this is when I've gotten to a point where I'm actually comfortable with the figures. They came out the way I want, they fit the way I want, and they're the right silhouette. Now, I did play around with some colored resins. This red resin, as you see on the left, a lot of the resins, they don't have the saturation levels. So on the right is my painted version. I went with painted versions of all the stuff. Obviously, I look at the saturation levels and go with what works best. And this shows an array of all the weapons and the different types of ninja heads that I wanted to use to create all the types of ninja figures. So this is my painted test. I always do a painted test and photograph and then look at it even further in case I want to make changes to the current lineup. And then it's sort of going through, Cole would have been my first that I wanted to look at the base figure using white resin and white paint, and then making sure all the weaponry fit. He had everything he needed in terms of sword, he had size, he had bow, and then adding stuff like the insert into the arrow so you could actually hold it in his hand. And I also did a series of red ninjas to go with him, because in the film he was surrounded by red ninjas in the beginning and they had all kinds of weaponry. This is Shogi from Revenge of the Ninja. And I try to make each of the figures have their own unique weaponry as well. That way they had a little bit more distinctive character. Like, you know, I believe the mass version came with a short sword, but the this version came with the kamas and the caltrops, just to make it more distinctive for people that bought more than one. And this shows my array of assembling these. A lot of the 3D printed stuff is pin-based that just go into pure solid pieces. I didn't want to do that. I wanted them to be as legit to Kenner as possible, so the housing and pins work in that way. They will not fall out, they are tight. And this shows my base assembly of getting all those guys together. I believe I did 2 batches of 50 and 30, so it was around 80 in total, which was a lot of figures to paint and sort of like work on. I couldn't even fit them all on the table. So this is just me doing my base paint assembly for a portion of them, and then later fitting all the weapons and doing a final polish pass on everything before I start basically cutting all the cards, mounting all the cards, rounding all the corners, gluing all the bubbles, all of that stuff. So each figure is essentially completely hand done in that way, which is why the batches are limited to 50 usually. And I did use the movie poster stuff just because it's iconic for people that are tied to this stuff and connected to it. And I thought it was really powerful in its own right. And I found some great fonts to basically communicate the names of the characters. And it was just a lot of fun. And even like setting up the different backgrounds and that sort of thing. This one is just a random like rooftop image that I had that was appropriate. But for Enter the Ninja, I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to capture that sort of like daytime garden in the forest. So this is me with an aquarium backdrop and grass from the yard and leaves that are ground up and stuff from the snake aquarium. But once you set it up and you get some depth of field, it looks pretty sweet. And it costs very little. It's very simple ways of doing dioramas. And even this like Japanese garden stuff, I found miniature files that I printed out. And the blue part is actually the Creature from the Black Lagoon playmat that they're standing on that represents the water. So anyway, that stuff is really simple, and I'll cover more of the diorama stuff in the future. I appreciate you guys spending some time looking at this, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Definitely respond with any questions or comments, and I'll get back to you. All right, take care.